But speaking of heels, one of the most controversial heels out there, New Jack. Now, we all know from his days at Smoky Mountain. Thank you, Jim Cornette, because of course you came up with those creative ideas with the promos. Even New Jack admitted it himself. We can't ignore ECW. There were a lot of controversies that New Jack had at ECW, particularly the mass transit incident. Then, of course, Vic Grimes, him throwing him on top of the scaffold and then landing on the table. There's Hunter Red. There's Gypsy Joe. My favorite New Jack moment has to be in Smoky Mountain Wrestling when he said, "I'd like to give a special shout out to my good friend OJ Simpson. Two less we got to worry about. Keep up the good work."
You don't get I was hoping somebody was gonna say that, and that was one of my moments. That was legit one of mine.
Oh shit! What either that, or you want me to use the NAACP promo in which he said, "You want me to use the NAACP promo in which he said, the hell with them homegrown, you know what?"
He just said it. God help us. Hell man.
Snoop Dogg, we know you innocent.
You called me last night. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look. What's so funny about that is I used to work with one of New Jack's cousins.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay, I know he's from that Georgia area.
Yeah. Name was Mr. Ramsey. He was my mentor when I was a lead as an IT technician. You know, when I furthered my career. But when I first got there, he used to tell me stories about him and New Jack and how people didn't mess with him for real because he was about that life. So shout out to Mr. Ramsey, man. That was to hear some of the stories that he would tell me, because you know, New Jack used to be a bounty hunter at one time.
He was.
He was a bounty hunter. So yeah, and he, you know, that was New Jack was a character within itself. The interviews that he used to do was sometimes the interviews that he used to do outside of wrestling was even more diabolical than the ones that he did during wrestling. I will never ever forget that one he did with Vlad TV. That was one I would ever forget. I would never ever forget that interview and the visual aids that he provided throughout that interview. That was like, if I'd never see this shit again in my life, it will be too soon for me. Because that right there was diabolical. I don't know what to say. New Jack, I salute you. You were that dude, man. But there was a lot of diabolical things, and it's just like, damn. When I used to see New Jack, New Jack was one of those guys, even at my peak, like, bro, I'm finna walk on the other side. Remember what she said, step to the side and bow your head. So that dude was about that life, man. But I think that's everybody's favorite moment, man. That
You didn't think I was going to say that?
I did not, man. That was just man.
The fact that they even cleared that to let him say.
That was just crazy.
But that's also the genius of Jim Cornette too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna one of my first videos on TikTok was him saying that. You know, I said they said what would have worked back in the what worked back in the 90s that would not fly today. I posted that video. I didn't put it in its entirety because I didn't want to offend anybody. But I put the beginning. I want to spend a special shout out to my homeboy OJ Simpson, and then I cut it right there because you know, like I said, I don't want to. I'm politically correct. I try not to offend folks, but man, that I banned that shit. I mean, that's the segment right there. You know, I mean, that is a promo for the ages. I mean, for him to say Louis Farrakhan would be the next president, Snoop Dogg, we know you're innocent. Last night, bro, and people don't even realize. The generation these days don't even realize he was talking about Snoop Dogg because of that case that he had. Because of what was happening during that time. I will say that. We ain't going to get too gory with the details, but yeah, you know, he had a case above his head, a certain case above his head, you know, during the first start of his career. So, shout out to UPSP because I had looked through my phone earlier today and I was trying to avoid it like the plague. I'm like, look, I'm not going to say that. So I'm like, I'm scrolling, trying to find a match or something like that. But yeah, that's the segment right there, man. I want to spend a special shout out to my home for OG Simpson. That's the whole segment right there. That's if you clip that whole thing, that's just crazy. But yeah, that right there and that interview he did with Vlad, that was
the way how he was talking about Vince.
No, not just that. What he said about Terry Runnels, that was a that's cringe-worthy.
I would never look at that woman the same again after that interview. Oh God!
I mean, never mind. I'll say that after the show. The thing was the only thing was about Terry is you knew something was off about her because you know she just had that look about herself. We'll leave it at that.
BRF.
Whoo! How do you follow that? How do you follow Smoky Mountain Wrestling? That was one of my that was one of mine I was gonna use. How do you follow that? I don't know, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Honestly though, I give New Jack was one of my favorites growing up because I got into like that late that kind of that ECW run in like 99 2000 where they really started to blow up and really was becoming that third alternative that alternative to WWF and WCW at the time. And New Jack was one of my favorites. And the thing is, you knew when he came to wrestle, he wasn't going to do a lot of wrestling. It was going to be a lot of weapons. It was going to be guitars. It was going to be trash cans. It was going to be pool sticks. It was going to be vacuum cleaners. Like he didn't care if he could pick it up. He was going to hit you with it, and that's what I respected about him. But my favorite part of a New Jack match, and I know y'all got to be in agreements with me, is the entrance. ECW at the time allowed these guys to come to some of these great songs that some of them I'm surprised, like Rob Van Dam. He came out the Walk by Pantera. AEW let him use that song. Kudos to AEW for letting him use that song. New Jack came out the Natural Born Killers by Ice Cube and Dr. Dre. And that song would play during the entire match every time he wrestled. So not only are you enjoying a good match, but you bobbing your head because you know that song, you know Ice Cube, you know Dr. Dre, you know that is one of the more controversial yet really good songs ever written and produced. And the fact that New Jack came out to that song, I mean, in a way with his persona and his character, it fit him to a T. So I mean, it's like certain eras of wrestling, certain wrestlers, they had the entrance that would just kind of bring you in and just take you on a ride. Like whether like today, like you got like Cody's entrance and Seth Rollins' entrance and Roman's entrance, and back in the day, it was like it was Sting's entrance with that WCW music, like in WCW, like in the late '90s when he first took on that Crow version of Sting, and it was that slow kind of like anti that kind of anticlimactic, kind of melodramatic kind of song that he would come to the ring with, and it was just all dark, but it would kind of captivate you and it would just bring you in because you knew it wasn't the same Sting you saw like in the early '90s. The NWO entrance with the Rock House theme song, like there were so many entrances that would just that just captivated you and brought you in even before the match even started. And New Jack, even though he came out the natural born killers of all song, his interest it brought you in because it was one of those like it set the tone. It set the tone for what you were about to see in a New Jack match because you knew it wasn't gonna be no headlocks, it wasn't gonna be no wrist locks, it wasn't gonna be no arm drags. Somebody was gonna bleed, and somebody was gonna bleed a lot. And that was the perfect song to just set the tone for all of his matches. So respect to New Jack, respect to ECW for letting him come out to that song, because if there was ever a song that wouldn't dare play today, that's the song. So shout out to New Jack. R.I.P. Rest in peace to New Jack. But yeah, honestly, my favorite New Jack moment was every time he made an entrance just to hear that song and just to bob your head and get hyped before the match started, because you knew when that song played, like you could somebody be cutting a promo as soon as you heard that, as soon as you heard that, like that beginning, it was like, oh god, and then, and you just sat for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and you just watched the glorious chaos that was a New Jack match.
Absolutely, man. Him and Mustafa when they were in the gangster days, man. Mustafa was crazy, and also I love the fact with him and D'Lo Brown, man. But yeah, I like to give a special shout out to my good boy OJ Simpson. 2 less we got to worry about. that was hysterical, man. I mean, as crazy as it was, but that was hysterical. But Jim Cornette knew what he was doing. Jim Cornette knew what he was doing. That's why Champ calls him colorful.
Colorful.
There are certain promos from certain wrestlers that put them on the map. That promo put New Jack on the map.
Yeah.
It did.